The amphitheater was massive. It could hold 3,000 students from 40 different species, and today almost every seat was filled. Light came from floating orbs near the ceiling, casting a soft blue glow over the rows of strange faces. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had no faces at all, just clusters of sensory organs that moved and pulsed. Yuna sat in the back row. Between her brother Doyen and her roommate Hannah, she was small compared to most beings in this room. At 22 years old, she stood only 5 feet 4 inches tall. Her black hair was tied back in a simple ponytail. Her academy uniform was clean and pressed. She looked like any other human student, quiet and unremarkable. But Yuna was not unremarkable. She had spent 4 years in the Republic of Korea Marine Corps before joining the Galactic Coalition, Academy's exchange program. She had taught close combat to soldiers twice her size. She had broken bones and had her bones broken. She knew what the human body could do when pushed to its limits. Today, none of that mattered. Today, she was just another student listening to a lecture. The instructor was a Telvanni named Vorak. He stood 8 feet tall at the center of the amphitheater. His body was covered in dark green scales that looked like armor plates. His arms were thick, and his hands ended in claws that could tear through metal. He was a veteran of 3 border wars, and everyone in the academy knew his name. Vorak was famous for his course on comparative species combat studies. It was one of the most popular classes in the academy. Students came from across the galaxy to learn about how different species fought, what made them dangerous, and how to counter their natural abilities. Today's lecture was about natural weapons. A holographic display appeared in the air above Vorak. It showed a Krath warrior, a reptilian species with venomous claws. The display rotated slowly, highlighting the poison glands in the creature's fingers. The Krath, Vorak said, his voice deep and commanding, are born with weapons. Their venom can paralyze a full-grown Morvani in under 30 seconds. In close combat, a Krath needs no tools. Their body is the tool. The display changed. Now it showed a Morvani, a massive creature with 8 tentacles covered in suction cups lined with tiny teeth. The image zoomed in on the crushing strength of those limbs. The Morvani can exert 12,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, Vorak continued. They can tear a ship's hull open with their bare limbs. In water or low gravity, they are nearly unstoppable. More species appeared. The Belrics with their stone-like fists. The Ven with their electrical discharge organs. The Silari with blades that grew from their forearms. Each one was a natural warrior, born with the ability to kill without weapons. Then the display changed to show a human. Yuna sat up slightly, the holographic. Human rotated in the air. It was a male, average height, average build, no claws, no armor, no venom glands, just soft skin and blunt teeth. Vorak paused for effect. And then he said, "We have humans." A few students laughed. Some of the alien species shifted in their seats to look at the small cluster of human students scattered around the room. Yuna felt their eyes on her, but she did not react. "Humans are an interesting case," Vorak said. He did not sound interested. He sounded dismissive. They evolved on a mid-gravity planet with no natural predators that forced them to develop biological weapons. Their skin is thin. Their bones are relatively fragile. They have no claws, no venom, no armor. He gestured at the hologram. In terms of natural combat ability, humans rank near the bottom of all known sentient species. They are what we call a soft species. They survive not through physical prowess, but through tool use and pack tactics. Hannah leaned over to Yuna. "Is he serious right now?" She whispered, why UNA did not answer. She just kept watching. Vorak continued. "Do not misunderstand me. Humans are valuable allies. They are excellent engineers, creative problem solvers, and surprisingly effective at long-range warfare when given proper technology. But in hand-to-hand combat?" He shook his head. "Humans do not fight barehanded. They cannot. Evolution simply did not equip them for it." He said it like it was a simple fact, like it was obvious, like it was not worth discussing. In the 300 years since humans joined the galactic community, Vorak said, There is not a single documented case of a human defeating another species in unarmed combat. Not one. When humans fight, they use guns, ships, drones, and armor. Take away their technology, and they are helpless. Do-Yan's hands tightened on his knees. He glanced at his sister. Yuna's face was calm, almost blank. Only someone who knew her well would notice the slight tension in her jaw, the way her fingers had stopped moving. This is not a criticism, Vorak added, as if being generous. Every species has its strengths and weaknesses. Humans simply evolved to use tools instead of bodies. There is no shame in this. He moved on to discuss the Telvanni's own combat capabilities. His scales, he explained, could stop most bladed weapons. His claws could punch through light armor. He demonstrated a fighting stance that his people had used for 10,000 years. The human students sat in uncomfortable silence. Yuna remained still. She was not angry. Anger was wasteful, and she had learned long ago to set it aside. But she was thinking. She was remembering the training halls in Pohang, where she had learned to turn her small body into a weapon. She was remembering the countless hours of practice, the techniques passed down through generations, the philosophy that said size and strength, nothing against skill and will. She thought about the 200,000 years of human history that Vorak knew nothing about. The wars fought with bare hands before metal was discovered. The martial arts developed on every continent. The countless masters who had devoted their lives to perfecting the art of combat without weapons. Vorak thought humans could not fight. He was wrong. The lecture continued for another hour. Vorak discussed counter-tactics against each species, escape methods, and survival strategies. When he talked about humans, his advice was simple. Disarm them, and they will surrender. When the lecture ended, students began to file out. Vorak stood at the front, accepting compliments from admiring alien students. He looked satisfied with himself. Yuna stood up slowly. "Let it go," Do-Yan said quietly. "It's not worth it." "I'm not going to do anything," Yuna said. But she did not leave. She stood there, watching Vorak, waiting for something she could not yet name. Hannah looked between the siblings. "Yuna, what are you thinking?" Yuna did not answer. She was still thinking about what Vorak had said. Humans do not fight. Barehanded. She had spent her whole life proving that statement wrong, and somewhere deep inside her, a decision was beginning to form. Vorak opened the floor for questions. This was his favorite part of the lecture. He enjoyed the attention, the admiration, the chance to show off his knowledge. Students raised their appendages, tentacles, and claws to ask about combat techniques, survival strategies, and species weaknesses. A Krath student near the front spoke first. His voice was a harsh rasp, like metal scraping against stone. "Instructor, are there any exceptions to the soft species classification? Any cases where a species considered weak has shown unexpected combat ability?" Vorak thought for a moment. "There are always outliers," he admitted. "Individual members of any species can be unusually strong or skilled. But as a whole, soft species remain soft. Humans included." Another student, a Morvani with thick gray tentacles, raised one of its limbs. "I have a question about humans specifically." "Go ahead." "I have access to some coalition military databases," the Morvani said. "Not classified, just general tactical information. In those files, certain human soldiers are marked as priority elimination targets. The notes say to avoid close combat with them if possible." "Why would that be, if humans are helpless without weapons?" A murmur went through the amphitheater. Yuna noticed that several alien students were now paying closer attention. Vorak waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Military reports often exaggerate threats. Soldiers in the field make mistakes, misidentify dangers, and create legends where none exist. I assure you, there is no scientific basis for treating humans as close combat threats." "But the reports specifically mention unarmed combat," the Morvani pressed. "There are references to human soldiers killing armed opponents with their bare hands." "Propaganda," Vorak said firmly. "Or misremembered events. Perhaps the human in question had a hidden weapon?" Perhaps the opponent was already injured. I have studied human physiology for 30 years. They do not have the natural equipment for effective unarmed combat. He said it with such certainty, such complete confidence. Yuna's fingers tapped against her knee. Once, twice, 3 times. Vorak looked around the room with a slight smile. If any human present wishes to prove me wrong, they are welcome to try. I would be happy to demonstrate the difference between a species built for combat and one that is not. It was a rhetorical challenge. He did not expect anyone to accept. He did not think any human would be foolish enough to face a Telvanni. Warrior in front of thousands of students, silence filled the amphitheater. Doyen's breath caught. He knew that silence. He had heard it before, in the training halls back on Earth, right before his sister did something that surprised everyone. Hannah looked at Yuna. "Don't," she whispered. "He's twice your size. He'll kill you." Yuna did not answer. She lifted her hand. The movement was small, almost casual. She did not stand. She did not shout. She simply raised her hand. The way a student might when asking a simple question, but the effect was immediate. Thousands of alien eyes turned toward the back of the amphitheater, toward the small human woman with the quiet face and the raised hand. Vorak's smile faded. He squinted, trying to see who had responded to his challenge. "You there?" he said. "The human in the back? Are you volunteering?" "Yes," Yuna said. Her voice was calm and clear. It carried across the vast room without shouting. Another murmur, louder this time. Students began whispering to each other. A human challenging Vorak? This was either brave or insane. Vorak laughed. It was not a cruel laugh, but it was dismissive. The kind of laugh adults give to children who say something foolish. "Come down then," he said. "Let us see what you can do." Doyen grabbed his sister's arm. "Yuna, don't. This isn't worth it. He's a decorated combat veteran. He's killed people." Yuna looked at her brother. Her expression was calm, almost peaceful. "So have I." She pulled her arm free and stood. The walk down to the amphitheater floor was long. Hundreds of steps past rows of alien students who stared at her with curiosity, pity, or amusement. Yuna walked steadily, her footsteps echoing in the sudden quiet. She reached the floor and stopped about 10 meters from Vorak. Up close, the difference in size was even more obvious. The Telvanni instructor towered over her. His scales looked like stone. His claws gleamed under the floating lights. Yuna removed her academy jacket and folded it neatly. She wore a simple white shirt underneath. Her arms were bare, showing lean muscle built through years of training. She placed the jacket on the ground and straightened up. "What is your name, human?" Vorak asked. "Yuna." "Yuna." He tested the sound. "Well, Yuna, I admire your courage. Most humans would not accept such a challenge. But courage alone does not win fights." "No," Yuna agreed. "It does not." "I will restrain myself," Vorak said. "I have no wish to injure you seriously. I will simply hold you down until you surrender. This will prove my point without causing permanent damage." Yuna nodded. "That is thoughtful of you." Her voice was polite, almost friendly. But there was something in her eyes that made Vorak pause. A stillness, focus. Like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. He shook off the feeling. She was human. What could she possibly do? "Do you have any combat training?" he asked. Yuna said. "What kind?" "I was an instructor in the Republic of Korea Marine Corps," she said. "I taught unarmed combat for 3 years. Vorak blinked. Then he laughed again. "You taught humans to fight other humans. That is not the same as fighting a Telvanni." "No," Yuna agreed. "It is not." She rolled her shoulders, loosening the muscles. Her stance shifted slightly, feet spreading to shoulder width, weight balanced on the balls of her feet. It was a subtle change, but to anyone who knew combat, it was significant. She was ready. "One question," Yuna said. Vorak tilted his massive head. "Yes. Would the instructor prefer I demonstrate on a training drone, or would he like to verify personally?" The words hung in the air. The amphitheater was completely silent. Vorak's eyes narrowed. For just a moment, something flickered across his face. Not quite doubt, not quite concern, but something close. Then he smiled again. Personally, he said, I would not miss this for anything. He dropped into a fighting stance, claws extended, scales raised along his spine. He looked like a creature from a nightmare, built for violence and death. Yuna stood across from him, small and still. Whenever you are ready, she said. In the back of the amphitheater, Doyon closed his eyes. He had seen his sister fight before. He knew what was coming, but the rest of the galaxy had no idea they were about to learn. The combat safety systems activated with a soft hum. A shimmer of blue light surrounded the amphitheater floor, ready to intervene if the fight became too dangerous. Medical drones floated down from the ceiling, standing by to treat injuries. Vorak circled slowly to the left. His movements were confident, almost lazy. He had fought dozens of species in his long career. He knew how to read opponents, how to find weaknesses, how to end fights quickly. The human woman did not move. She stood in the center of the floor, hands relaxed at her sides, watching him. Her breathing was slow and steady. Last chance to reconsider, Vorak said. Thank you, Yuna replied. I am fine. Vorak attacked. He was fast for his size. 300 pounds of muscle and armor launched across the floor in a blur of motion. His right arm swept forward in a grabbing strike aimed at Yuna's shoulder. It was the standard Tilvani restraint technique. Designed to pin an opponent without causing serious harm, his claws closed on empty. Air Yuna was not there anymore. She had moved at the last possible moment, stepping to the side and slightly forward. It was a small movement, just a few inches, but it was enough. Vorak's arm swept past her and his momentum carried him forward. Before he could adjust, Yuna's hand shot up and struck the soft tissue under his arm. It was a small gap in his scales, where the armor plates met at the joint. Telvanni knew this weak point existed, but they also knew it was almost impossible to target in combat. Yuna found it on her first try. Pain exploded through Vorak's shoulder. Not crippling pain, but sharp enough to make him gasp. His arm went numb for a moment. He spun, slashing with his other hand. Yuna ducked under the strike, moving with the smooth efficiency of water flowing around stone. Her fist drove into another gap, this time at his hip. Vorak stumbled. The amphitheater had gone completely silent. 3,000 students stared in disbelief. This was not possible. Humans were soft. Humans were helpless. Everyone knew this, but the human woman was still moving. Vorak recovered and changed tactics. He stopped trying to grab her and started trying to overwhelm her with pure aggression. His claws slashed through the air in wide arcs, each strike powerful enough to tear through metal. He used his size advantage, pressing forward, giving her no room to breathe. Yuna retreated, but she was not running. She was guiding him. Every step backward, she controlled the distance. Every dodge, she created angles. She was not fighting his strength. She was making his strength irrelevant. A Krath student in the front row leaned forward. She is not fighting him, he whispered to his neighbor. She is moving around him. Vorak lunged with both arms, trying to catch her in a crushing embrace. Yuna dropped low, almost to the ground, and swept her leg against his ankle. The strike would not normally move a Telvanni. But Vorak was already off balance from his lunge. He stumbled forward. Yuna rose behind him. Her elbow drove into the back of his knee, hitting another gap in his scales. His leg buckled. Before he could turn, her forearm wrapped around his throat from behind. Finding the narrow strip of soft flesh beneath his jaw, it was a chokehold. A human technique called a rear naked choke, developed centuries ago and refined through countless variations. Vorak reached back, trying to grab her. But she was positioned perfectly, her body pressed against his back, out of reach of his claws. He tried to slam backward, to crush her against the floor. She moved with him, riding his motion, ever losing the hold. His vision began to dim. With a roar of frustration, threw himself forward, trying to flip her over his head. Yuna released the choke at the last moment, rolled across his back, and landed on her feet in front of him. Vorak was on his knees now, gasping for breath. His scales had been struck in 4 different weak points. His arm was still numb. His leg was shaking, and the human was not even breathing hard. 23 seconds had passed. Vorak forced himself to stand. He was a warrior. He had survived battles that killed hundreds. He would not be beaten by a creature half his size with no natural weapons. He charged again. This time, Yuna did not dodge. She stepped forward to meet him. Her palm struck his chest. Not hard enough to pierce his scales, but precisely aimed at the nerve cluster beneath. His lungs seized for a moment. Before he could recover, her other hand found his wrist, twisted, pulled. Vorak was airborne. It should not have been possible. He weighed more than twice as much as she did, but she had used his momentum, his angle, his own strength against him. It was a throw from a discipline called judo, perfected over 500 years of human practice. Vorak crashed onto his back. The floor shook with the impact. Before he could move, Yuna was on top of him. Her knee pressed into the gap at his throat, exactly where the scales were thinnest. Her fingers positioned themselves over his eyes. The fight was over. 47 seconds. Total, the silence in the amphitheater was absolute. 3,000 beings stared at the floor, at the fallen Telvanni instructor, at the small human woman kneeling on his chest. Yuna's breathing was slightly faster now, but her face was calm. She looked down at Vorak with something that might have been respect. "Do you yield, instructor?" she asked. Vorak stared up at her. His mind was racing, trying to understand what had just happened. He had fought Krath assassins. He had survived Morvani death squads. He had never been defeated so quickly, so completely. "So easily I yield," he said. Yuna stood up and offered him her hand. He took it, as she helped him to his feet. She spoke clearly so everyone in the amphitheater could hear. "Humans spent 200,000 years fighting each other before we reached space. Every generation refined the art. Every culture developed its own techniques. We do not have claws, so we learn to strike with every part of our bodies. We do not have armor, so we learn to avoid being hit. We do not have venom, so we learn to attack the places where venom is not needed." She paused. "We call these techniques martial arts. There are hundreds of styles, from hundreds of human cultures, perfected over thousands of years: taekwondo, judo, jujitsu, sambo, kali, boxing, wrestling. Each one is designed to turn the human body into a weapon." The amphitheater remained silent. Instructor Vorak Yuna continued. "You said that humans do not fight barehanded because we cannot. That is not correct." She turned to face the thousands of watching students. "We fight barehanded because we can. Because we spent our entire history learning how. Because when you take away our weapons, you do not make us helpless." Her voice dropped slightly. "You just make us angry." Somewhere in the back row, Hannah started laughing. It was a sound of pure surprised joy, and slowly other sounds began to fill the amphitheater. Whispers, questions, the shuffling of species trying to understand what they had just witnessed. The lesson had begun. The videos spread across the galactic networks within hours. Someone in the amphitheater had recorded the entire fight on their personal device. They uploaded it to a public forum with the simple title, "Human Defeats Telvanni Instructor in 47 Seconds. By the end of the day, it had been viewed 18 million times by the end of the week. The number had passed 1 billion. Comments flooded in from every corner of the galaxy. Some were skeptical, claiming the video was fake or that Vorak had intentionally lost. Others were curious, asking for more information about these martial arts the human had mentioned. A few were frightened, suddenly realizing that the quiet humans they had been working alongside might be more dangerous than they appeared. But among human communities, scattered across coalition space, the reaction was different. Pride. Not loud or boastful pride, just a quiet satisfaction. A reminder that they were not as helpless as the galaxy assumed. That underneath their soft skin and friendly smiles, there was something harder, something older. Something forged in 200,000 years of conflict with the most dangerous predator Earth had ever produced. Themselves, Yuna became famous overnight. She did not want the attention, but it found her anyway. Her face appeared on news broadcasts. Her name was discussed in military briefings. Students at the academy stopped her in the hallways to ask questions, take pictures, or simply stare. She handled it with the same calm she brought to everything else. She smiled politely, answered questions briefly, and continued with her studies. 3 days after the demonstration, Instructor Vorak sent her a message requesting a private meeting. She found him in his office, a large room decorated with weapons from a dozen worlds. He sat behind a desk made of dark alien wood, his massive form filling the chair like a boulder wedged into a space too small for it. "Sit," he said. Gesturing to a chair across from him, Yuna sat. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Vorak studied her with his reptilian eyes, as if seeing her for the first time. "I have been a combat instructor for 40 years, he said finally. "I have trained soldiers, fought in wars, and studied every species in the coalition. I thought I understood violence." He paused. "I was wrong." Yuna waited. "The way you fought," Vorak continued, "it was nothing like what I expected. You did not try to match my strength or my speed. You did not attack my armored areas. Every strike was precise. Every movement was efficient. You knew exactly where my body was weak, and you exploited those weaknesses without hesitation." "Hey, that is how humans fight," Yuna said. "We evolved without natural weapons, so we had to learn where to strike. We developed entire sciences around the study of vulnerable points, pressure points, nerve clusters, joint weaknesses. We mapped every part of the body that could be attacked." Vorak nodded slowly. "And the throws. The way you used my own movement against me?" "Leverage and momentum," Yuna explained. "Humans are not the strongest species, but we are clever. We learned that a small amount of force applied at the right moment and angle can move much larger opponents. This is the foundation of many human martial arts. Judo, Aikido, Hapkido, they all use the same principle. Your people spent thousands of years developing these techniques." "Hundreds of thousands of years," Yuna corrected. "Long before we had written language, long before we had civilization, humans have always fought. It is part of who we are." Vorak was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed, a deep rumbling sound that shook the weapons on his walls. "I told 3,000 students that humans were a soft species," he said. "I told them you were helpless in close combat. And then you defeated me in front of all of them in less than a minute." "You are not a bad fighter," Yuna said. "You are very skilled. But you were not prepared for what I could do. That is not your fault. You did not have the information. That is generous of you." Vorak leaned forward. "I want to learn. These martial arts you mentioned, these techniques, I want to understand them. Will you teach me?" Yuna considered the request. "Why?" "Because I was wrong," Vorak said simply. "And when I am wrong, I learn. I do not pretend otherwise." Yuna nodded. "I will teach you what I can." That night, she received another message. This one was from Tai-Ho, a human she had seen at academy functions but never spoken to directly. He was listed as a diplomatic attaché, a mid-level government official handling human affairs at the station. His message was brief. "We should talk." "My office. Tomorrow, 0800. Yuna arrived exactly on time. Tai-Ho's office was small and plain, nothing like Vorak's collection of trophies. The only decoration was a framed photograph of Earth. Taken from space, Tai-Ho was in his 30s, with a serious face and careful eyes. He wore civilian clothes, but something about the way he moved suggested military training. "Please sit," he said. "Why, Yuna sat. You have caused quite a situation," Tai-Ho said. "The video of your demonstration has been viewed by more beings in the past week than any other piece of human media in history. Military intelligence agencies from 7 different species have requested information about human martial arts. 3 coalition members have formally asked the human government to provide close combat instructors for their special forces." "I did not intend to cause problems," Yuna said. "Problems?" Tai-Ho smiled slightly. "You misunderstand. You have not caused problems. You have created opportunities." He leaned back in his chair. "I am not just a diplomatic attaché," he said. I work for Coalition Intelligence, Human Division. My job is to protect human interests and advance human standing in the galactic community. Yuna nodded. She had suspected something like this. For decades, Taiho continued, other species have underestimated us. They see us as two losers, support personnel, the species that builds things but does not fight. This perception has cost us influence, respect, and opportunities. Your demonstration changed that perception in 47 seconds. What do you want from me? Yuna asked. I want to offer you a job. Taiho pushed a data tablet across the desk. The Coalition Special Operations Command has requested a human instructor to train their elite units in close combat. They want someone who can teach what you showed in that amphitheater. They want you. Yuna looked at the tablet but did not touch it. This is not just about teaching, Taiho said. This is about what it means for humanity. Every soldier you train will carry human techniques into battle. Every species that learns from you will remember that a human taught them. This is how we build respect. This is how we prove our worth. He paused. I will not force you. The choice is yours. Yuna picked up the tablet. She read through the offer slowly, carefully. It was generous. More than generous. It was an opportunity that would never come again. She thought about Vorak, humbled and eager to learn. She thought about the billions who had watched her fight. She thought about the humans scattered across the galaxy, quietly proud of what she had done. And she thought about the martial arts masters who had trained her, passing down knowledge that was older than civilization itself. They had given her a gift. Perhaps it was time to share that gift with the galaxy. She looked up at Taiho. I need time to think, she said. Take all the time you need. Taiho smiled. But not too long. The galaxy is watching. That night, Yuna sat alone in her quarters, looking out at the stars. Her brother and her roommate had offered to keep her company, but she had wanted to be alone. The galaxy thought humans were soft. They were wrong. But softness was not weakness. Softness was adaptation, flexibility, the ability to bend without breaking, to flow around obstacles. To find the gaps in the strongest armor, humans had spent their entire existence learning to survive against stronger, faster, more dangerous opponents. They had turned that struggle into an art form, and now, perhaps, it was time to show the galaxy what that art could do. Yuna made her decision. 6 months had passed since the demonstration. The amphitheater was full again. Every seat was taken, and more beings stood along the walls, crowded into every available space. The floating lights cast their soft blue glow over faces from dozens of species. All turned toward the central floor. But this time, Yuna was not sitting in the back row. She stood at the center of the floor, wearing a simple black training uniform. Behind her, a massive holographic display showed images of human warriors from across history. Samurai from ancient Japan, Hurung from Korea, Shaolin monks from China, capoeira fighters from Brazil, wrestlers from Iran, boxers from America. Hundreds of traditions from hundreds of cultures spanning thousands of years. In the front row, she could see familiar faces. Hannah, grinning with pride. Doyen, sitting with arms crossed and a slight smile on his face. Taiho, watching with professional interest, and next to Taiho sat Vorak. The Telvanni instructor had a data tablet in his clawed hands. He was taking notes. In the 6 months since their fight, he had become one of Yuna's most dedicated students. He practiced human techniques every day, adapting them for his own body. He was still learning, still growing, still refusing to let pride get in the way of knowledge. Yuna respected him for that. She looked out at the thousands of faces watching her. Military observers from a dozen species, students from the academy, journalists recording everything for galactic broadcasts, Coalition officials who had come to see what all the attention was about. She took a breath and began. 6 months ago, in this same room, Instructor Vorak taught me something important. He taught me that the galaxy underestimates quiet things, soft things, small things. Her voice was calm and clear, carrying easily to every corner of the amphitheater. He called humans a soft species. He said we could not fight without weapons. He believed this because it was what his data showed, and he trusted his data. She paused, letting the words sink in. He was wrong. But his mistake was understandable. For 300 years, humans have hidden this part of ourselves. We used our technology, our ships, our weapons. We let the galaxy see us as engineers and diplomats. We did not show them what we really were. The holographic display behind her changed. It showed to humans fighting, moving in patterns that the alien audience did not recognize. Punches, kicks, throws, locks. A dance of controlled violence, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Humans learned to fight because we had no choice, Yuna continued. We evolved on a planet filled with predators larger and stronger than us. We survived by being clever, by working together, and by learning to kill things that should have killed us first. But our greatest enemy was never the beasts. It was each other. The display showed images of human wars. Ancient battles with swords and spears. Modern conflicts with guns and bombs. The faces changed, the weapons changed, but the violence remained constant. For 200,000 years, humans have been at war with ourselves. Every generation fought. Every culture developed ways to fight better. We created entire philosophies around combat. We turned violence into art. She stepped forward. Today, I will teach you what that art looks like. She began with the basics. How humans stood. How they moved. How they used their hips and shoulders to generate power that their arms alone could not produce. She explained the concept of center of gravity, the importance of balance, the way small adjustments in position could create enormous advantages. Then she demonstrated a training drone, built to simulate a Krath warrior, activated and attacked her. Yuna moved through its strikes like water through stones. She redirected its claws, unbalanced its stance, and dropped it to the floor in 3 seconds. Another drone, this one simulating a Morvani with 8 grasping tentacles. She slipped between its limbs, found the nerve clusters that controlled its movement, and disabled it in 5 seconds. A third drone, designed to match Vorak's size and fighting style. The amphitheater went quiet as it attacked. Yuna moved in the same patterns she had used 6 months ago, but slower this time. Explaining each technique as she performed it. Telvanni have armor, she said, redirecting a claw strike, but armor has gaps. Every joint, every fold, every place where the body needs to bend. Humans learned to find those gaps thousands of years ago. She demonstrated a strike to the soft tissue under the arm. Pressure point causes numbness and pain. She showed a throw using the drone's momentum against it. Judo, the gentle way. Not gentle for the opponent. She finished with the same chokehold she had used on Vorak, explaining exactly how it worked, how it cut off blood to the brain, how even the largest opponent would lose consciousness in seconds if they could not escape. The drone powered down, and Yuna stepped back. These techniques are not magic, she said. They are science. They are physics. They are biology. Humans did not become dangerous by accident. We became dangerous through study, practice, and countless generations of refinement. She looked directly at the military observers. You asked to learn what humans know? This is your first lesson. There will be many more. But before we continue, I want you to understand something. Her voice softened. Humans do not fight because we enjoy violence. We fight because sometimes fighting is the only way to survive. We fight because we care about protecting the things that matter to us. We fight because, after 200,000 years, we have learned that peace is precious and must sometimes be defended with force. She paused. The martial arts I teach are not just techniques. They are a philosophy. They teach control, discipline, and respect. They teach that true strength is not about domination, but about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. If you learn from me, you will learn this too. Not just how to fight, but when to fight. Not just how to win, but when winning matters. The amphitheater was silent. Then slowly, Vorak rose from his seat. He placed his clawed fist over his chest, the traditional Telvanni salute of respect. Other Telvanni in the audience did the same. A Krath officer stood and performed a gesture Yuna did not recognize. But she understood its meaning. One by one, beings from across the galaxy rose and offered their own salutes, their own gestures of respect. It was not uniform. It was not coordinated. But it was sincere. Why Yuna bowed, the traditional Korean gesture of humility and gratitude. "Thank you," she said. "Now let us begin." After the lecture, Do-yeon found her in the preparation room behind the amphitheater. She was packing away training equipment, moving with the same efficiency she brought to everything. "That was incredible," he said. "I have never seen anything like it." "It was just a lecture," Yuna replied. "It was not just a lecture." Do-yeon shook his head. "It was a message. You told the entire galaxy that humans are not to be underestimated." Yuna finished packing and turned to face her brother. "I told them the truth," she said. "That is all." Do-yeon smiled. "You always were the humble one in the family." Outside, Hannah was waiting with Taiho. They walked together through the station's corridors, past aliens who nodded respectfully as Yuna passed. "You have changed things," Taiho said. "Not just perceptions. The Coalition Military Council has approved a new program. Human combat instructors will be stationed at every major military base in the Coalition. They will teach what you taught today," Yuna said. "It is time." "Time for what?" Hannah asked while Yuna looked out a window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning around its sun. The cradle of humanity, the birthplace of every martial art she had demonstrated. "Time for the galaxy to know who we really are," she said. "Not soft. Not helpless. Not weak." She turned away from the window. "We are survivors. We are fighters. We are the species that made weakness into strength." Behind them, the amphitheater was emptying. Students and soldiers and observers were leaving, carrying new knowledge back to their homes, their ships, their worlds. The lesson Yuna had taught would spread across the galaxy like ripples in a pond. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she heard the words of her old instructor, spoken in a training hall in Korea on a warm summer day, years before she had ever seen the stars. "The body's only a tool," the instructor had said. "The true weapon is the mind. Train the mind, and the body will follow." Yuna had trained her mind. She had trained her body, and now she was training the galaxy. The first lesson was complete, but there were many more to come.